If there's nothing else that you take from this video, just take this. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So my name is Sneaky. We're also known as Mom and All, and in this channel we're all about thriving, especially in our personal finances, but we thrive and we win in different areas of our lives. So we're also talking careers and mainly the chartered accountancy profession. So in this video, guys, I'm going to be addressing two of my subbies' questions. They wanted to know, how do you get into doing your articles outside of public practice, top, or basically in a bank? Because I did mine at a bank. Like, how do you get in? Academics, interviews, what are they looking for? And then the Ngams also wanted to know basically what rotations do you do when you're training at a bank? What do articles look like? So in this video, I'm going to be addressing everything to do with training at a bank for your articles to become a chartered accountant. It's going to be a long video, but I really wanted to be extensive and to address everything that my subbies asked, because if you guys ask, obviously I must deliver, you know. So if you also have your ask, you can drop it down below in the comments and then I'll address it. In case you are maybe new to this channel, welcome. Do consider clicking the subscribe button. Yeah, we gave you a second there. Hope you're done. And if you've been subscribed, thank you. I really appreciate you guys. A little bit of background. I am a chartered accountant by profession, and I trained with one of the top 4 banks in South Africa. Not the top 4 auditing firms, but the top 4 banks. So basically there is training outside of public practice, which is what I did when you're not in an audit firm. And then there's training inside of public practice, which is called tip. So there's top and tip, and then tip is typically your audit companies, big or small, and then top is basically your banks and any other company that you might work for that is basically not in the audit route. So to get in, guys, I don't want to lie to you, it's not easy, mainly because of one thing, obviously supply and demand. There's only so much demand in the private sector or in top companies. They don't take in massive numbers, whereas in the audit firm, the nature of the business is to audit, and basically kind of the nature of the business is to train and use trainees in the audit business. Whereas with private companies, you'll find that they don't necessarily need as many trainees. Basically, trainees go there to kind of mirror what is done by other chartered accountants or professionals who've been in the profession for a while. So that's why it's difficult to get in. There's just not as much demand here than there is this side. That's why it's not easy to get in. Typically, to get in, the banks would put in an advert on their website, usually in the second half of the year. So after June, during your honors year, you can be on the lookout. You can apply at whatever bank that you think you want to train with, and then obviously you pray for the best and you just follow the process. So you can apply on their website, and then if you do get called in for an assessment day or for an interview, I can't remember the order now, but you get called in, there's an interview where it's you and a panel, and it's a formal interview session where they're asking you questions, and then obviously you have to answer. And then there's an assessment day that is pretty fair, guys. That's one thing that I like. That's specifically with my bank. So there's an assessment day when they're now assessing you on your skills other than obviously academics, because academics, they trust that your university will only like make you pass your honors or CTA if you like meet the bar. So they don't necessarily test your academics, but they'll test your other professional skills. So they'll put you in a setting where maybe you have to answer certain questions, like you're getting an email like this, how would you respond? Or they'll put like many different scenarios, and they just want to see how you would react. So it's a full day of being assessed by different moderators in different settings. So what I like about that is that it actually makes the process seem really fair, because now you're not faced with just the panel of interviewers for the day, and so if someone just doesn't like you, they don't like you. No, you go into different rooms and you're doing different things. For example, so I've also been in a situation now that I've been with the bank for a while now, then I've been in a situation where now we moderating and we kind of picking the intake for the following year. Then we'll look at different soft skills that the candidates are displaying, and my rating of someone could be different to someone else, and then it's a whole process trying to find common ground. So that's one thing that I really think is quite good and it's fair about the assessment process. So yeah, you basically apply and then you can basically shoot your shot. So one thing that I can say, guys, is don't think you have to be an A student to actually apply. Some of the top companies, like my bank for example, everyone's like, oh, it's so hard to get in the banks. It is, because of obviously the demand, and obviously you have to go through this rigorous recruitment process. But I wouldn't say don't apply if you feel like your marks are not great. You must still apply. For example, I was repeating my honors. I could have felt like, no ways is anyone gonna take me repeating, because obviously I'm not like top of the class, cream of the crop, but I was cream of the crop because I did do well and make it through the assessment process. And I actually didn't even disappoint them, because I ended up passing my board exams first time, and I think it was all of us actually. So we always had 100% pass rate for board 1 and 100% pass rate for board 2 as well. So that was pretty cool. But obviously, because I was repeating honors, I could have said, no, I'm not going to apply for this. But I applied and I got in, which is great. So you guys, don't wait to meet all the requirements sometimes when you're applying for things. Just shoot your shot. You never know, you might get in. Choosing between tip and top. How do you go about choosing? So I would say it's important to just know what you want. If you know for sure that you do not want to go the audit route, you don't have ambitions of being an audit partner one day and signing off financials, and you are sure that this is specifically what you want to do, because top companies, they're very diverse. You could go to a mining company, you could go to a bank, you could go anywhere. So if you are sure of what you want, for example, I was sure that I wanted to be in a bank, and specifically within the treasury department of a bank, and explore how things operate there. So that's why I went that route. But if you're unsure, I'd say go the audit route. Then you'll be exposed to different things, because you don't want to risk specializing too soon, and then because you've specialized too soon, it's not easy for you to find employment in the market later on when you do want to venture into different things. And I think I've mentioned this before, there is a bias in the market where some companies will say, when they're hiring chartered accountants in future, some companies will actually say, we are looking for someone who preferably trained with the top 4 audit firms. And then that immediately locks out everyone else who trained in banking or anywhere else. So the opportunities, I feel like they just are there. They're wide open for people who train in audit firms. But I know that people usually just think because top pays more, so it pays better when you're going to the private companies, then people are like, oh no, I want to go there because there's just more money. But that can't be your only motivator. It really has to be about your career and what you want, because you don't want to earn more, but the skills that you get here maybe might enable you to get your dream job one day, where you could end up earning a lot as well. So it's all about patience and just going through it. And even if you are in audit and you feel like, oh, we're not paid great, just know that, guys, the opportunities for you guys are endless, they are vast. So, and the exposure that you get is great. So don't be deterred by the money. So that's what I would say. If you really are not sure how to choose, rather go the audit route until you know what you want. Because when you're auditing different companies, you might see that that you like, I don't know, whatever, insurance companies instead of whatever, I don't know, mining or retail. So that's it about choosing and about getting in. Your academics, you really need to just pass and then you'll be fine. So I was also a Tutua student. So you might be wondering, because you're in Tutua, weren't you allocated to the bank? So this is what happens. Thuthuka is a bursary fund that basically funds students from previously disadvantaged backgrounds, specifically Black and colored students. So the bursary fund basically has lots of sponsors, which are different companies from tip and top that will sponsor the bursary, and then they'll sponsor different, like it goes in the pot and it sponsors students. And then once students graduate or they're done with their studies, then they get allocated to the different companies. But what happens is sometimes students want to apply as well to get in, so that's why I still applied and went through the recruitment process. But because my bank was entitled to some Thuthuka students, then I became one of those, because you might find that 30 Tutua students applied to get into that bank specifically, but they're only entitled to 3 or 4 or 2 for that year. Then that's how I made it. So that's why there's still a recruitment process even if you are a Tutua student. But you'll find that for other companies, like your small to medium firms, you kind of get allocated there, because they just like send me 2 or send me 3 CTA graduates. Then they're not too fussed about what skills do you possess and all of that, because obviously they're still gonna groom you when you get in. So that's basically how it works if you are a Thuthuka student. And just by the way, the Thuthuka Bursary Fund is now open for applications. So if you are black or colored and you are from a previously disadvantaged background, you can apply online. I will try and link the application forms down below. Guys, Thuthuka changes lives. Like, look at me. Like it changed my life, so it might change yours. So give it a shot and just apply. And it's always open, usually around April every year. It's open for the following year's intake. It's also a rigorous process to get in, but obviously just follow all the steps and basically all the best. So when preparing for your interviews, one thing I can really say is just make sure that you get used to having conversations with people, maybe engage in debates with fellow students, engage, just talk and like engage. Not now be talkative and out of character, no, but just know how to articulate yourself and how to communicate well, so that during the interview or assessment process you can be noticed and people can kind of get the point that you're trying to make in whatever situation that you'll be placed under. Also, maybe try apply in different places, so that if you do go for interviews and you don't make it in some of the places, at least it's practice for the one place where you will make it. Because every time when you go to an interview, you realize your mistakes and you're gonna do better at the next one. So do apply at more than one place. So how many trainees do they take? For example, in my bank, they took 7 trainees in the first year when I joined. Seems like a lot, but it's nothing compared to audit firms where it's like first year's orientation and it's this like huge thing. Obviously now that there's lockdown, there isn't much of that, but I know with us it was 7 trainees the one year, and the following year after us it was literally 1 psycha trainee in the whole bank, in the whole country. 1. And the other thing about banks and other private companies is that you'll find that there's psycha trainees and then there's also CIMA trainees. So if you're not doing the chartered accountancy profession but you're doing CIMA, then you can also do articles at a bank, and you usually go through the same process in terms of what you are exposed to in the workplace. When you get in, you basically get allocated to different teams, or to different teams. It can be for 6 months to 12 months, depending. For your period of 3 years, you get allocated to different teams where you work as an employee, normal 9 to 5. But before you even start your rotation, you'll usually have a meeting with your training officer, whoever is in charge of the training program, and the manager at whichever team you are rotating in. And then you have to decide which skills they are going to expose you, because psycha has a list of skills that you need to meet during your 3-year rotation process. So what will happen is psycha, your training officer and your manager for that role will meet with you present in the room, and then they'll say, okay, of the psycha list, what will you be exposing this trainee to? Then the manager will say, oh, we do budgets, yes. We do journals, yes. Then they'll take the things that they'll expose you to. So you need to pay attention to that list. And when you go, your training officer is now gone. You go and you work with your manager throughout the time. So you need to make sure that your manager exposes you to those things that are promised. If there's nothing else that you take from this video, just take this. make sure that you are exposed to the things that are on that list, because you don't want to waste your time working at a job for 6 months or a year and you only take 1 or 2 things, or you taking nothing, but your manager was impressed with you, you were doing well, you were doing your job, but you were not doing your actual job, because your actual job is to actually meet the psycha criteria and make sure that you meet all those competencies. So focus on the main thing. You're not there to do what your manager says, but you are there to meet the psycho competencies. But in order, obviously, to meet them, you do what your manager says. So just make sure that those two are always aligned. You don't want to find yourself in a place where you've wasted time, you haven't signed off everything, because then that could find you extending your contract to like 3.5 years or even longer if you're not meeting your competencies on time. So just make sure that you meet your competencies, please. That is very important. And obviously your timesheets as well, fill those in so that you can get the adequate hours of work. But obviously make sure that you are putting in correct hours according to the work that you are doing. Rotations, what kind of work do you do? I will try to be brief. My first rotation, I think, was about 6 months. I was basically doing financial statements. That was it. It was financial statements for the different subsidiaries. Most of us will just know a company, whatever, this bank, and then we'll go to their website, we'll see the financial statements, we know how much profit they made, cool bananas. But we don't know that these companies have very complex structures. They'll have subsidiaries upon subsidiaries upon subsidiaries. So they'll have like 100+ subsidiaries, and all of those subsidiaries are registered as companies, and they all have to comply with the Companies Act, and they all have to produce financial statements, and all those financial statements have to be audited by auditors. So that means obviously accountants are preparing those. So you need to work with various departments, the technical accounting people, you have to work with the tax people to agree on the financials, balance those cash flows. Oh guys, I remember spending a whole weekend trying to balance a cash flow of a company that I'm just there to do their apps. I'm like, what is happening here? But basically you have to do all those things throughout your first year. I mean, that's what I had to do in my first role. Obviously there was guidance and all of that, but basically that's what the first half of the year was for me. Then the second half was more like management reporting, where you're kind of dealing with basically tracking the performance of the company, like of the division, actually, not like one specific company, like, but how are we doing, what's our revenue, what's our interest revenue, how are we tracking, why is it different to our forecast, what's happening with that. And then when it comes to forecasts as well, there was basically another team where we have to now prepare forecasts of, okay, what's going to happen in the following year. And that literally meant knowing how much everyone earns on the floor, and how much headcount we have, how many more people we're going to get, how much we're going to pay those people, how many people are going to fly out to different African countries, because I'm working for like a big global bank. So how many times are they going to fly out, which hotels are they going to stay in, and in those hotels what are the rates, okay, how many nights will they stay, how much are the flights as well, and basically work out this full budget for this cost center of, okay, then this is our full budget, and obviously other costs as well that are within the company, refreshments, such things. So making sure that all of that is accounted for, is done well for the budget, so that whenever the expenses are being incurred in the following year, you can kind of track back and see how you're tracking against the budget. And then there's also now reviewing those budgets, because obviously things change. For example, now obviously, let's say there was a budget set for 2020, and then there was a pandemic, and then things were very different. Obviously there's no longer flights going anywhere, but obviously I'm no longer in that division now, but I'm just making a practical example. Obviously there was like literally company policy was no one is traveling anywhere for business purposes, everything will be done virtually. So that definitely means we need to adjust our budget. We can't constantly be, oh, we are favorable to the budget when it comes to traveling. No, you need to set a new budget now of maybe now incurring more Wi-Fi or connectivity costs and those kind of things. So that's what we do, or that's what happens. Obviously you always adapt. So the key things that happen is that there's usually a budget, there's usually financial statements, there's usually performance, what's happened, how much is the revenue this month, and why is it high, why is it down, how is it tracking to the budget, and then is the budget still relevant, renew it. Those are the kind of things. Obviously it happens in different divisions or different levels, because like the budget for treasury is very different to the budget I was doing when I was in the insurance business, but the concepts are the same. So those are the kind of things that you can look forward to in a private setting. Very good stuff. And obviously it gets quite complex, like foreign currency transactions, derivatives. It gets complex, but it really gets fun as well. So that is it then. I hope that answers your question, Bonga and Dangams, basically in terms of how to get in and what do you do when you are training in a bank. So that is it from me. I hope this video was insightful, and I will see you guys next time. And don't forget to subscribe, bam down below if you haven't. And I really appreciate you guys. Cheers.